A router on a shelf. A security camera above a door. Nothing about them looks like part of a state-backed cyber operation. But U.S. investigators say compromised devices like these were turned into something far more valuable. A way to hide. Behind that infrastructure were operations that reached NASA, the Federal Reserve, the Justice Department, and the U.S. Senate. Then, on August 26, the FBI and Justice Department pulled on one hidden thread, and QScan and QTRouter.
The investigation centered on two systems that U.S. authorities say were built to work together: QScan and QTRouter.
QScan searched the internet for exposed systems at STEDs, finding vulnerable connected devices and turning some of them into new infrastructure. QTRouter provided the second layer: compromised devices, proxies, and rented servers that could help conceal where malicious traffic actually began. And behind that infrastructure, investigators identified victims across some of America's most sensitive government and critical networks. To understand how that was possible, you have to start far away from Washington, with the machines almost nobody was watching. A router on a shelf. A security camera above a door. Nothing about them looks like part of a state-backed cyber operation. But U.S. investigators say compromised devices like these were turned into something far more valuable.
A way to hide where an intrusion really come from.
Behind that infrastructure were operations reaching major aerospace agencies, national financial reserves, high judicial departments, and legislative assemblies.
Then, on August 26, the FBI and Justice Department pulled on one hidden thread.
And QScan and QTRouter went dark, leaving ordinary devices operating normally.
QScan was built for a problem no human could solve: searching an enormous internet for vulnerable machines. Most devices would lead nowhere. But at this scale, most of them did not have to. According to authorities, QScan could identify exposed systems and search for weaknesses in connected devices. When a vulnerable machine was compromised, it did not look dangerous. It simply remained online. The search kept moving from address to address, across businesses, homes, and networks around the world.
The Justice Department says QScan automatically infected thousands of IoT devices worldwide.
Finding machines was only the first step. The routing network used them to hide where activity was coming from. A direct connection carries something dangerous for an attacker: a clearer trail back toward where the activity began. QTRouter created another path, using layers of infrastructure between the operator and the destination.
According to the Justice Department, those layers included commercial proxy services and leased virtual private servers.
But QTRouter also had something more useful: ordinary IoT devices already compromised and connected to the internet. That meant malicious communications could appear to come from somewhere outside China, even, investigators say, from infrastructure near the target.
Security intelligence reports say QTRouter was designed to blend malicious activity with legitimate users moving through the same internet.
Follow the connection backward, and every additional intermediary makes the true starting point harder to see. And once that camouflage was in place, U.S. investigators say the infrastructure was used against an extraordinary list of targets. Once the route was hidden, the scale of what sat at the other end becomes much more important.
The Justice Department says victims of QTFY intrusion activity included NASA.
Their intrusion activity also extended directly into the Federal Reserve.
And even the Department of Justice itself was listed among the victims.
The Department of Energy FORS, tied to the country's most sensitive national security missions.
Health institutions were targeted too. major public health agencies, and national research institutes, and reaching into the highest hall of government, national legislative assemblies. Advisories show activity reached telecommunications, key strategic industries, and higher education. A scope of activity this broad raises a question: who builds infrastructure supporting such widespread operations?
What U.S. investigators describe is not the familiar story of a lone hacker building everything for a single attack. They say QTFY actors worked for a private company in Nanjing called Nanjing Xinjuwei Network Technology.
According to the Justice Department, the group offered computer hacking services to paying customers.
Those customers, U.S. authorities allege, included China's Ministry of State Security and the People's Liberation Army.
Researchers at Cybersecurity Labs describe the model with a different word: a quartermaster zone, infrastructure built to support the operators who actually need it.
Reconnaissance, routing, and concealment no longer have to be recreated from scratch for every operation. And when different actors depend on the same underlying infrastructure, one provider can quietly support activity against many unrelated targets.
Which is why investigators did not begin with August 2026. Security agencies say network activity can be traced back to at least 2018. U.S. agencies trace QTFY activity to at least 2018, long before QScan and QTRouter became public names.
Over time, individual machines could disappear, servers could move, and infrastructure could change. But investigators kept finding recurring functions: scanning, proxying, routing, and networks built from compromised devices. And the targets kept spreading across very different sectors: telecommunications, government, research, and critical infrastructure.
By 2026, an FBI affidavit says the target list included the United States Senate.
Across years of observations, separate pieces of infrastructure began to form a clear pattern. Eventually, investigators found something more important than thousands of replaceable nodes: a vital central dependency. After years of chasing distributed infrastructure, investigators found the weakness. The platforms were not as decentralized as the outer network made them appear.
Federal authorities obtained court authorization to seize domains tied to QScan and QTRouter.
The Justice Department says those domains were hard-coded into the platforms themselves.
They were required for essential functions of torments, including communication and authentication. So when control of those domains changed, the machines on the outside did not need to be physically seized. The routers stayed online, the proxies still existed, but the hidden system connecting them could no longer function as designed.
On August 26, 2026, the Justice Department says the seizures rendered QScan and QTRouter inoperable.
The takedown did not switch off ordinary devices. Homes stayed online, and cameras kept recording. That makes the larger problem difficult. Ingredients of an obfuscation network already exist everywhere.
This was not the first time authorities disrupted infrastructure built around compromised or distributed machines.
QScan revealed the lesson. The most valuable cyber weapon is the network built around ordinary machines.
After NASA, the Federal Reserve, the Senate, and years of investigation, it ends where it began.
With a machine that looks completely ordinary. That may be the most unsettling part.
You cannot recognize the infrastructure of a cyber operation simply by looking at it.
The future is never finished. Every answer creates another question. Subscribe to keep decoding what's next.